Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Wednesday, April 27th, 2022. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the GBN Production YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11, and 20. And good morning to the loyal listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. Welcome once again to The Point. Joining me virtually this morning are representatives of the Ministry of Education. I have online the Permanent Secretary, Kevin Andall, as well as Project Officer, Miss Ruth Charles. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on To The Point this morning.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on To The Point.
It's a fitting conversation this morning as we prepare for the opening of the it started yesterday, today Wednesday, man. Yes, it started this week. The third term of the school year started this week, and it's always an ongoing conversation about the infrastructure and the maintenance of our schools across the island. So that's what we'll be talking about as our students go out to the classrooms, face-to-face learning this week. So what has the ministry been up to in ensuring that our schools are properly maintained and fitting to house our students and our principals and teachers?
Thank you, Blossom, for that. I would like to say that the ministry has been embarking on a number of projects, implemented a number of projects to rehabilitate our schools. We have done so through every level of our education sector, pre-primary, primary, and secondary. We have done for the pre-primary through the BNTF, the Basic Needs Trust Fund. We have rehabilitated expanded one school, River Sally pre-primary school, and we have built two new schools, which is the Paradise Pre and the Brizan Happy Hill Pre, which is now renamed the Busheju Child Development Center. We have spent in the region of almost $5 million EC on those projects. And the children are experiencing a world-class facility, as I would say. And the policy of the government of Grenada is really ensuring that all our educational facilities are adequately placed to provide the enabling environment for quality education. Therefore, the physical environment is very important for us to meet those standards that I spoke about regarding quality education. But some research has shown that students learn best when they are in a good facility. And I do say that the pre-primary students in the three facilities are enjoying the best of the physical environments. And we have admonished the teachers with these new facilities, then the learning and the teaching should match. And we have also had the regional disaster vulnerability reduction project, which is the RVIP, which have done 39 schools rehabilitation work to the tune of $13 million. And we also have the next project, which is the Grenada Education Enhancement Project, GEEP, which presently is involved with the expansion of the Presentation Brothers College by a technical wing at the tune of $5.8 million. We have also done rehabilitation work and expansion work at the Grenada 70 Adventist Comprehensive School to the tune of $5.8 million. And we are doing a new school in Carriacou, Bishop's College, which presently is at 60% construction implementation rate at the tune of $10 million. We are also embarking on some new schools during the currency of this year, which will be the St. Andrew's Anglican Primary School, the Grenada Christian Academy, and we are in the design phases of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, the J.W. Fletcher Catholic School Secondary School, and the St. Joseph Convent Grenville, and St. Joseph Convent St. George, where we'll be doing a retaining wall. It's a lot. We have been doing a lot. And that is just projects, not mentioning the daily and the daily maintenance of all of our facilities. Remember, we have almost 140 something schools nationally, which are primary, secondary, and pre-primary. And on a daily basis, we have a number of requests, and Ms. Charles can share those, and in regards to the costs and so forth. But we have had a lot of requests on a daily basis because most of these facilities are experiencing challenges.
We speak of infrastructure work, development work, new schools being built, but there are some institutions that still need attention. One of my interests would be the Florida government school. They've been through it over the past year. First with the infrastructure, and just recently the president of the PTA spoke of a flea infestation and fumigating and what happened to the students afterward. Has the issue at Florida, has it been addressed? Have they been addressed and fixed, and the students comfortable?
Yes, I will open the floor to Mrs. Charles now to give us an update on Florida.
Good morning, everyone. Blossom, good morning, and to your listening audience.
Good morning again.
I'm pleased to give an update on Florida government. Following last year's engagement with the stakeholders, what we have before us is a tentative conceptual design for a new facility for the resident students at the Florida government, which would benefit, of course, the population there, or residents of St. John's. We are in between finalizing, however, the location of the new facility, and so our engagements are ongoing. It is our hope to engage the school staff and principal and staff and parents in the incoming week as we move ahead with the process in implementing this project. Florida remains priority for us, and the Ministry of Education, of course, we're committed. We gave our commitment last year when we met with the parents, and so we remain on track in terms of implementing that project.
Blossom, I just also want to add that we have secured the funding for the facility. So just ensuring that the consultative process is completed and all stakeholders are on board and agree that this is what we ought to do. Once this is completed, we are going to start construction for Florida government.
Any idea how soon?
Well, we are hoping soon, maybe in the next few. Let us look at the consultative process, the awarding of contract. I can say in the next 2 to 3 months.
At least by the last quarter. Yes.
For that.
All right. And also,
in regards to the flea infestation, the ministry, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, responded quite quickly, and we have addressed that. We are also putting remedial systems in place so that the culprits, which are the canines, will not be able to create such a havoc again within that facility. We are working closely with the principal and staff, and we are going to ensure, as Mrs. Charles said, that we address the issues of Florida with urgency.
All right. And P.S., you mentioned there's the construction of the Bishop's College on the style of Carriacou, but I remember a few months, maybe about a year ago, the conversation started about issues at TAMCC campus in Carriacou. What can you tell us about remedial work for that building, that infrastructure?
Bishop's College, we are at 60% completion. We are looking to complete that work for the new school term. So by August, hopefully, if the supply chain issues doesn't affect us as it is affecting us now, that we are looking to complete that project within the second half of this year. 60% is a lot. I know that Those out there would see the pictures on Facebook and social media that most of the buildings are up, and the contractor is committed to delivering on time, barring no other challenges in regards to supply chain. We had some serious challenges with supply of materials and the availability of it, which hindered the work a bit, but we are on track. And Bishop's College would have a world-class facility that will be the envy, not only of other schools in Carriacou, but also on mainland Grenada.
And what about the TAMCC College in Carriacou?
The TAMCC College in Carriacou, we have done some consultative work. We have explored a number of options in regards to relocation. The government is working feverishly to address the situation. We have had engineers visit and look at the facility and give their assessment. We have those recommendations, and we are working feverishly to implement those. We are aware of the challenges that the students and staff at the TAMCC Carriacou is faced with, and the ministry is working with all stakeholders, union, all stakeholders, to ensure that we resolve that matter speedily.
And a comment that a lot of people have had in relation to maintaining our schools is that it looks sometimes like we wait until the situation is really bad before we address what could have been minor issues, minor problems, a minor leak. What plans does the ministry have in place, if any, to address matters before they get out of control, before one leak ends up being an entire roof needs to be replaced?
At this point, I would really like to commend the Ministry of Infrastructure for their assistance and proactivity. We have had a number of engineers assigned to Ministry of Education to provide that support. And what we're doing is assessing the schools. So instead of just dealing with the day-to-day, we are proactively assessing the schools and looking at the challenges that the schools are facing. And we have a list of all of the schools with the scopes and with the assessment reports, and we are prioritizing. We cannot deal with all of the schools, but we are looking at the really, really bad schools, the schools that are in dire need of rehabilitation work, and we are dealing with it. A matter of fact, Mrs. Charles will be able to update us on where we are for 2022 in regards to schools that we have deemed critical and what we're doing to help in that regard. Mr. Charles.
Right, thank you, Jess. So what we have achieved in 2021 is 51 schools. We were able to rehabilitate 51 schools, namely under the RDVRP project. That's the Regional Disaster Reduction Project funded by the World Bank. And so we have brought these schools up to this standard, which we want to continue to maintain. And in 2022, with the assessments and scope of works that have been developed, we would see the implementation of at least 30 schools going under rehabilitation. Some already have started. What we do best is try to schedule minor works, of course, afternoons and weekends. We can only achieve so much, and look towards the school break, that is the vacation time, to do major work. And of course, as you said before, why ministry waiting on the last minute to fix the schools when school ready to open in September? That has gone out the door. What we have is our plan in place. So as soon as school closes, the few schools where we have to do major work instantaneously at the end of June, commencement of July, we will unfold these projects as to finish timely for the reopening of schools in September. That is our commitment, and we're working hard towards it, achieving it. Thank you.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, Blossom, that prior to 2019, and all our stakeholders principals and staff of schools would say that the ministry's approach to school maintenance was a bit ad hoc. Since 2019, we have employed a very systematic system in collaboration with the Ministry of Infrastructure to be proactive and to deal with the issues of school maintenance as it ought to be done, proactively. Not when we find a problem, not when a problem comes up, but assessing the schools and identifying the problems, securing the funding, and dealing with that matter. And we have done that. A matter of fact, in regards to dealing with the challenges of efficiency in the school, we have employed a help desk system whereby the principals can call and relay day-to-day issues, but also to point out the observation that needs to be addressed. When this comes to the ministry, it is put on a list, a matrix that is processed. The engineers are informed and they go out to the schools and do the assessment. They come back and they say, no, this school need to be addressed now. And that is the systematic way, in collaboration with infrastructure, that we are addressing school maintenance.
All right, Mr. P.S. and Ms. Charles, let's take a quick break and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. We are speaking about school maintenance and school infrastructure as the first week of the new school term began on Monday. This is To The Point on Classic 105 and GBN. We'll be right back.
This week on Interesting Grenadians, you'll meet Dr. Jude Phillip, Grenadian-born biomedical engineer, researcher, and lecturer at the Johns Hopkins University. Wednesday, April 27th at 8 p.m. on GBN TV and social media platforms. You won't want to miss it. Dr. Jude Phillip on GBN's Interesting Grenadians. Wednesday night at 8. See you then.
The Fed because I turn me GPS on. The party pumper they call me. Once the Fed is on, I bet you I will be right there. The cooler done set. Pocket check so I feeling irate. Destination check so you know we out for the party.
Mr. Mentioned the wing carry, then you have things like man, you must come back, you know. We have the low power that.
It is kind of like the same man, and it's just different name for the same kind of thing.
And last but not least, I just want to say to all the men who saw me, call me, and ask for a piece of cake. I'm baking this weekend.
Join us Fridays at 8 on GBN Television, K105 FM, GBN's Facebook page, and YouTube channel for We Culture.
The most anticipated family fun-filled event on the GBN calendar is back. The Maggie King of the Grill. Join us on June 4th at Mount Rouge. Be part of the culinary masterpiece as the best grillers on island compete for the coveted title of the Maggie King of the Grill. Think you have what it takes? Be part of the action. June 4th. Book your spot. If not, step away from the grill if you can't handle the heat.
Back to The Point. We are speaking with Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andall, and Project Officer Ruth Charles. I wanted to also deal with an issue that I know the ministry has been dealing with, schools have been dealing with, the issue of vandalism. We have seen it happening in, I don't want to say specific schools, but in some schools you see it more than others, as well as the issue of theft. Of whether it be computer or I think there was once somebody stole, I think it was a desk and a chair in a school or something or the other. But how is the ministry dealing with the issue of vandalism and theft of equipment in our schools? Sorry, Mr. Pierce, just unmute.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Let me start by saying vandalism is a major issue, not only for schools, but government buildings and even private homes. There is this notion that is a government property, so I can do what I want, I can go there and do what I want. The ministry has employed a number of systems. One is to improve on the security of the facility by having additional security personnel. We have looked at that, and it is quite expensive. It is an expensive venture. And we have partnered with the Go Green project under the Ministry of Finance to provide lighting and security camera facilities for all of our schools. So in collaboration with working with the RGPF for patrolling and having the additional lighting and security facility at the schools, we are hoping that we can reduce vandalism. But vandalism is a mental thing. It starts with the mind, and we have to re-educate people to understand and to appreciate what is being done. When $5.8 million is spent on a facility, that's $5.8 million of the taxpayers' fund. Now, if internal stakeholders and external stakeholders are not appreciative of the investment and develop an appreciation or a love to protect the facility and its content, then we can have the most security, we can have the best security in the world. People would continue to do that. Because even the students are involved in vandalism. In one of our schools, we found that in the electrical sockets, students was putting things into the sockets that are forbidden, that caused a number of issues for us at that facility. A matter of fact, we did an overhaul of that facility and we had to return because the students were just tampering with the electricals. And we have to re-educate. We have to admonish people that we need to take care of what we have. This is our country. This is our facility. It is the facility of the community and the people within that facility, and we should take care of it. So, Blossom, this is how we are addressing the vandalism and the theft, and we let the law have its way. Persons who are held responsible or the culprits in doing that, once they are identified, the RGPF deals with that and the judiciary.
I would just like to, if I may.
Yes, sure, go right ahead.
Right. In addition to the security measures outlined by P.S. Andall, I would just like to add, as part of the rehabilitation and expansion process of our schools, what we have adopted is the fencing of our schools. So what you will see happening going forward, as the schools go under rehabilitation, you will see that fencing is included as part of the works to be done. And we hope by that, we can also minimize the amount of vandalism or the, happening in our schools.
As well as, and the PS just mentioned children fiddling with some of the electricals, and so how can principals and what role can principals and teachers play in helping the maintenance of our institutions? Because they're the ones in it on a daily basis, at least 5 out of the 7 days of the week. How can they help in keeping, especially those that are being fixed and or rebuilt? How can they help?
Well, we have, let us just focus on the pre-primary schools, the new facilities under the BNTF. In collaboration with the BNTF and the ministry, we recognize something, that if the persons who are responsible for the maintenance of the facilities are not educated properly and how to take care of the facility, that we would reach back to the situation that we were in 5 years ago with those facilities. So what we have done is capacity building. We have done some sessions with the janitors or the cleaners so that they would understand that there are certain tiles that requires a specific care, that we need to ensure that we don't just clean in front of the louvers, but we clean behind the louvers, and we do a major cleaning every holiday, and so forth and so on, and employing the right chemicals, if we may say so, and so forth, to ensure that the facility is maintained. One of the biggest things is that sometimes you have a new facility, and within a year when you return, the paint job and the painting and the scribbling by the children, and just you wonder if that was a new facility. We are working with the principals and teachers that they can educate the children, that it can be included within the civic or within the social study lesson, that they would learn how to take care of the facility and cherish it. Education is the way to ensure that we minimize vandalism and theft. And we are working with our stakeholders to ensure that we educate them and that we have a good facility.
And another issue, something we've been dealing with for the past 2.5 years, and one of our Facebook viewers, he's thinking like me. Good morning, Ernesto. In relation to COVID-19, we have removed protocols, but COVID-19 is still very much present. Just 2 days ago, I saw we had 60-something new cases. Yesterday, I saw a report out of Trinidad that there are outbreaks of COVID-19 in schools in Trinidad and Tobago. I think Bahamas is also dealing with it as well. How are we ensuring that our students, especially as they're coming out of the Easter break, that our students are staying as safe as possible, considering that we don't have the protocols that can, keep them, for lack of a better phrase, in line?
Yes. Well, at the Ministry of Education, we still have our monitors and cleaners at the school. Even though the protocol had been elapsed, we still have the monitors who are there to enforce that they wash their hands and sanitize their hands. Although we cannot enforce the mask, but a lot of schools are still encouraging the students to wear the mask. As a matter of fact, my daughter have taken personal responsibility to ensure that she goes to school with her mask. As the Chief Medical Officer has clearly alluded and asked of the nation, that it is our personal responsibility to protect ourselves. And then we have asked parents to ensure that if it is a concern to you, that the school would not prevent your child from coming with their mask. And it is important that parents and stakeholders recognize that COVID-19 is with us still, and COVID-19 is here to stay. So we have to protect ourselves. As a Ministry of Education, we are continuing to educate our principals and teachers. We are continuing to be guided by the Ministry of Health. We have not had an outbreak within our school system like Trinidad and the Bahamas. But once the situation requires a change, in consultation with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education will do what is required to protect our children. So as a ministry, we will continue to observe and be vigilant and to work with the respective authorities so that we can protect our children. But I want to reemphasize personal responsibility on the part of parents, personal responsibility on the part of the teachers and the principal as we traverse this very complicated and challenging road laid down by COVID-19.
At this point in the program, viewers and listeners, we will take comments, questions, queries, concerns from our viewers and listeners. The landline number, 435-2041. That's also the WhatsApp number. You can also send us a voice note if you so desire on WhatsApp. And you can continue to post your comments and questions on Facebook, the GBN Grenade Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, and the GBN Production YouTube channel. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you, Ms. Blossom.
Morning.
And good morning to the persons in the studio. I want to conclude with a gentleman about the dilapidated as schools and the condition of school. And I think it's something that the government have to hold themselves responsible for, and the ministry, because too often we see schools being repaired, and in a short time you see it in a dilapidated condition. Enough care is not taken of the school property, even around the grounds. And more have to be done, and it have to be more serious than that. Because you know, I agree with him that to train the children to understand to keep it clean and whatnot. But you need more than the children keeping clean. You need the people who take care of the school, like the cleaners. There are times when the amount of work that should be done, like perhaps every 2 months or 3 months, a power wash down of the school should be done. There are schools where you see in the guttering grass and so growing inside there. They are around the facilities more than what the average person that working in school could do. Need to be the environment, the overhangings and so need to be clear. And I think it's time that we get serious on that, because a lot of money have been spent on those schools. For that matter, there is no other government in the history of Grenada that has spent more money on schools than this present government. So at least we should see some work for it. So I'm putting that blame square on the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. P.S. Mr. Schatz?
Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller, for that. We have recognized the challenges, and we cannot do. Rome was not built in a day, as they say. So what we're doing is that we have identified the problems, and we are dealing with the situation section by section. We are working with the principals and the students in the educational drive. We are working with the cleaners to put expectations and systems in place to measure the performance and for them to be aware of what is expected of them. And that is presently being done. And we're working with the stakeholders, because most of our schools, if you are aware, are like community centers. You want to have a meeting, it's in a school. You want to have a dance, it's in a school. The Ministry of Education is moving away from this whole thing about the schools being a dance hall. And because what we have noticed is that having these parties and so in the school have really contributed towards the deterioration of our facilities. So we are working. It is an age-old problem, but we are chipping at the block. We continue to chip at the block, and we are seeing some response, some positive responses from the schools, the internal stakeholders, and from external stakeholders. And Blossom, when I pass, every time I pass in Bushes, when I see the new facility, I feel happy, because I am aware of what existed before for the two preschools that were in that area. And we have a world-class, proper facility. Recently, I went to Riverside to do the launch, the handing over of that facility. And when I look at the picture of that facility, it was a one-room facility. Now you have 6 classrooms with kitchen, with sick bay, with all of those things. It would be a travesty in the next 4 years if we have a facility that is dilapidated to the point that we cannot recognize it. That is why it is important for all and sundry, for all involved, to appreciate what we have. And I just want to emphasize that point.
Yes, go right ahead, Mrs. Charles.
Of course, and like I said, with the commitment, normally on a daily basis, we hear from our minister. She's committed in ensuring the schools remain safe and the environment remains stimulated. And with spending over 50 million EC dollars within the past 2 years, I must say that it is important for us, as hence we, within our policy, on a yearly basis. The team at Ministry of Infrastructure, together with the team of Administrative Education, assessments will be done in terms of what needs to be executed on our schools. And of course, the responsibility, as P.S. Andall said, relates on everyone, all stakeholders, those who are in these facilities on a daily basis, as well as those in the community. And we here at Education and the team at Infrastructure, when we visit, and what we do when we visit, we assess to execute. And execute. After that, we want to maintain. So let's give it a try. Let's let the system unfold, and in a year or two, we can come back and do another assessment and give feedback. Because I'm sure we would see that the changes were implemented for the betterment of our facilities going forward.
All right, let me go back to... Okay, we lost that caller. Let me scroll on the social media. All right, somebody on Facebook says, school principals need to take charge of their school. They need to give advice to caretakers. How are some school buildings well managed and others are unkept? Which brings me to the topic of school caretakers. Whose responsibility is it to employ our caretakers for respective institutions?
The Ministry of Education is responsible for providing caretakers to the institution. The principal has a legal and administrative responsibility to manage everybody on the facility. So the oversight of the cleaners or the caretakers will be that of the principals. What we have noticed is that, as the Facebook person alluded to, there are varying standards. So some schools, when you go there, it is spotless, and some schools it is the opposite end of the spectrum. What we have developed is what we call SOPs for cleaners, security, groundsmen, and all of those persons, ancillary staff attached to the schools. We are looking to refine those SOPs and now publish these SOPs so that every principal would be aware of what is expected of not only the principal, but the cleaners, and what are the deliverables for the groundsmen, the security, and the cleaners. We are hoping that this accountability framework would improve the administration of ancillary services at our school. But the principal, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, is responsible for cleaning of schools.
Good. Okay, lost that caller again. Callers, I know you may be on hold for 2 minutes, but it's just to facilitate the answering of a previous question while you're on hold. So my apologies if you're using credit or so. Okay, so we have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Miss Blossom. How are you?
I'm good. How you do?
I'm fine. A long time I hear you.
A day, man. A day.
Mr. Andall.
Yes, sir.
Listen, every time TAMCC school issue come up, I always duck away from the school. This school been clamoring for a long time. This school is in a bad state, you know. And when I want to stick up at the school, I always ducking from it. Why are you getting to the basket to carry water for? TAMCC school marching up, and I don't not fixing the school.
Which TAMCC? Grenada?
I'm not speculating, I'm talking because I know.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Kola, I understand the emotional connection to TAMCC. I understand the challenges faced by TAMCC in Carriacou. I have visited the site, so I know firsthand what exists. As I said to you, yes, indeed, it's an urgent matter, but we have to do it right. That is why we consulted. That is why we are consulting. That is why we are ensuring that all stakeholders are in agreement. This is what we ought to do. We also have to take into consideration the financial aspect and the financial implication for the project. So government is ensuring and is working, as I said, with stakeholders to ensure that we give to Carriacou TAMCC the best facility for them. TAMCC is going through a project to to assess all of the facilities, not only Carriacou, but Grenada, St. Patrick. It's a rehabilitation project for TAMCC. We are in the first phase. We have received the reports from the consultants, and now we are prioritizing the recommendations and we are implementing. So we are looking at TAMCC holistically, but also singling out Carriacou for its urgent address. And I hope the next time we come back here to speak about school maintenance, that we will have a better report to give regarding TAMCC Carriacou. So I understand how you feel, brother, but we have not forsaken Carriacou TAMCC, and we are working to deal with that issue.
Speaking of TAMCC PS, a little outside of the infrastructure maintenance topic, but in relation to TAMCC, not just TAMCC, schools. We've had a recent incident of one of the lecturers at TAMCC being accused of sexually related crimes. And the question is, how is the ministry helping to ensure that this does not happen again, where we have men and women in authoritative positions taking advantage of our students, whether it be TAMCC, a secondary school, or even a primary school? Any measures put in place?
Well, there are systems in place to deal with those. If it's an adult, it is an ethical issue. And a minor, it is a criminal issue. So it is important for all of our teachers, principals, and those in authority that deals with our students to remember that it is a crime. It is a crime to do this. But the greater crime is persons knowing and not reporting. There are mandatory requirements to report. And our society is a society that we know things. We speak about it in the back rooms, but we are not reporting these things where they ought to be reported. It is unacceptable. It is criminal for this kind of act to be done to a minor, and it's unethical if the person is not a minor. And I have thought, and a number of males as well as females are teachers, we cannot betray the trust of the students that have been entrusted to us to do these things. And the ministry is resolute in that regard. That is unacceptable. It should not happen. However, there is a need to further educate and remind our teachers and educators that it is a betrayal of trust, it is unethical, and it is criminal, and it would not be accepted. And it would be dealt with the full force of the law or whatever ethical principles that are in place.
Well said. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom.
Morning.
Yes, good morning. And to your guests. I would like the people from the ministry to pay attention or to have a serious look at the Birch Grove School, that is the old school. They have a serious ventilation problem there. The school is very, very hot. Apparently they had some ventilation holes or whatever in the veranda of that school, and that was blocked up. And as a result of that, the school is extremely hot, and the children, the teachers, and everybody are complaining. So I would like you guys to have a serious look and see what can be done to bring some relief to these to the school in Birch Grove. All right?
Thank you very much, caller. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, caller. Indeed, a facility for students or anybody should be well ventilated. And we are going to investigate that matter. We're going to conduct an assessment, and we're going to do the remedial work needed to address that. So, but thank you for your observation and for bringing that to our awareness.
All right, let me scroll on the social media before I go back to the landline. Somebody on WhatsApp asks, My question is about the school boards for government schools. The Ministry of Education has contacted a number of persons who agreed to serve. The Chief Education Officer said by September 2021, various officers will be appointed. To date, this is not done. What is the situation with this matter?
In 2021, it was approved. The school management board initiative was approved. We have gone through the consultation process and we have identified individuals. We are not looking to implement that. We have done so in phases. So there are schools who have managers in place, and there are some schools that don't. We are looking for the new school term to ensure that all the schools that are targeted for that project or are targeted for that initiative would have all the managers appointed and in place. We apologize for the delay, but we had some administrative issues that needed to be dealt with. But we are dealing with it, and we would be ready for the new school year.
A caller online. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning. Go right ahead.
Okay. To me, it surprises me that to hear education officer stating that schools have problem with people who look into the maintenance of the school. I cannot see how this could happen. It depends on who possibly in charge. Are the education department in charge of hiring people? What do the people have given to work with? In other words, what is their role in the school? Only to clean or to wipe down the desk? In other words, is what you give them to do. If you don't give them the idea to cutlass the yard or to tidy up the school, then you cannot comment on them. At the same time, you have a right to educate them, tell them what they have to do. I don't mean to teach them maths, Education is tell them what they have to do, what they're supposed to do. And to some extent, the principal have a right to complain possible to you. So you all are at fault, not even the people who are working. If you bring somebody to work with you at your home, you give them the idea for what they have to get, the money they have to get, you give them what they have to do. So blame yourselves in the education department and possibly the principal. Don't come and say they damage people damaging school. Educate the people about how to use schools, whether it's for dance or for whatever parties.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. P.S. Mr. Charles?
Yeah. Caller, I think you and I are on the same page because the education of the cleaners as well as the principals and all parties involved is important. Now, the management of the education system is a very big one and it's a very complex one because you're talking about 22,000 students and 1,800 teachers as well as 100 plus facilities that we have to deal with every day with different managers. It's not one manager, it's different managers. So that is why we have recognized that historically, we have the system, the coordinated system and standards were a little bit lapse in a number of areas. That is why we are tightening those standards and educating all persons so that everyone understand their role and what it is that they ought to do. And we are providing the supporting mechanism to help them to improve. So that is what we are doing, and we are looking at it, and we are working with it, and we are going to monitor and evaluate that process, and we are going to be adaptive where there are need for changes. We are going to change. We are going to receive feedback from all stakeholders to improve the system. So, caller, we are on the same page. We are on the same page.
It's almost time for us to wrap up the program. Let me see. There's a question on WhatsApp. Somebody on WhatsApp says, I don't see a problem if government allocates a certain amount of money to each school for its maintenance and its environment. The problem could be solved. Then all government has to do is check to see that the funds are used for its purpose. Do we have a way of ensuring that the $2 that I gave to Blossoms Primary School is being used for what I intended it to be used for?
And we're going back to what we spoke about previously with the color. There are different managers and different styles, and accountability is critical. And we are at this point now, so we are adaptive. So the system we are using now is relevant for the stage at which we are. When we develop a more comprehensive system and build the capacities of our managers, then we can consider this approach. But the approach that we are employing now is the best approach for where we are now. In leadership, we have to be situational. And this is a situational approach to school maintenance. It is not an idea that should be shelved, because indeed, autonomy and self-management is the aim of the education system. However, where we are now, we are looking to ensure that we build the capacity of all of our managers so that our system can be managed in the ideal way as outlined by your Facebook person.
WhatsApp. Final question on the WhatsApp. Ms. Andall, good to see and hear you. What is happening to the teachers with disciplinary problems who are supposed to be seen by the higher authorities? Do not transfer these teachers to other schools. So what is happening with teachers facing disciplinary problems or issues?
One good thing about the teaching profession is that we are guided by the Education Act. We have a very comprehensive Education Act, which outline all of the steps that should be taken for disciplinary action. We are following that and adhering to those strictly. The teachers who are up for disciplinary actions they are informed. The chief education officer and the disciplinary committee is working with them. We are informing the relevant authorities, and the required decisions are being made. We have recognized that there are need for improvement. So that is why the ministry is very, very committed to ensuring that the disciplinary system and regime is followed and that teachers are held accountable as all other public servants are required to be held accountable. And we are doing that.
Final thoughts, both of you, as we wrap up the program?
I just want to lead, and then Ms. Charles would follow with a statement. We have spent a significant amount of monies on school maintenance. We're continuing to spend significant amount of monies on school maintenance because we have recognized and we are committed to providing quality education, and having the ideal school facility or physical environment is important. However, we have to ask our stakeholders to work with us to take care of those facilities. Because if we don't do that, then the investment that we have that is put into those facilities would come to naught in the not too distant future. And we would have to spend the same amount of monies again, or much more, which can be diverted if we take care of the facilities into other areas within the government's service packages. So it is important that we take care of our facilities. It is important that we work together. It is important that we report. And it is important as the Ministry of Education that we give a report to the taxpayers via this medium and other mediums on where we are with school maintenance, and we are committed to it. So I thank you for having us today.
No problem. Mrs. Charles?
Okay, I would just like to reiterate that the ministry does have a clear plan for the implementation of school maintenance and for the upgrade in terms of school infrastructure. What we implore of our principals and our teachers is to continue to report the daily maintenance issues through the help desk. Of course, in our homes, we have electrical and plumbing issues where we have to run and get a plumber or electrician. We have a clear line for that reporting. And so we encourage them to continue using that system. Even parents and guardians who visit may have some observations. You can bring it to the attention of the principal and they can report it to the ministry. And again, I want to share that in terms of major work on our schools, when we assess with the Ministry of Infrastructure, even myself, I don't stay in office on most days. I'm outside, so I see it and I know what needs to be done. And so we're committed in getting it done. We do what we can on afternoons and weekends. And the major work we try to do, we schedule it, for holiday. So we do not take away from instructional time during the school term. And so we continue to seek the support, of course, from the public and from parents and guardians, in executing our maintenance plan according to our maintenance policy that we are guided by on a daily basis. Right?
Thank you very much, Mr. P.S., Mrs. Charles. Appreciate your appearance on the program this morning. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and have yourselves a good one.
Thank you for having us again.
Thank you. That was the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andall, and Project Officer Ruth Charles. We thank them both for being our guests this morning. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Always a pleasure. Thank you for your time, your listenership, your viewership. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for choosing the GBN. That's the end of the program, the end of my time. Enjoy the rest of your wonderful Wednesday. Please continue to be safe. There are no protocols or national protocols to be observed, but you can observe your personal protocols to stay safe from COVID-19 and any other diseases, infections, illnesses that may be lurking. The cold is going around and I hear it's a bad one, so please continue to protect yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your